Hello and welcome to Boomer Banter, where we bring real talk about aging well. And I am your host, Wendy Green, and I am so glad that you're here. Today's guest is someone who truly embodies the idea that your second act can be your most meaningful. Ken Counihan spent years in IT, but after a serious health scare, he pivoted in a powerful direction. He now hosts the podcast Eat Better Food Today, where he opens his episode with the phrase health and longevity begin with the food that you eat. Ken's show has evolved from a personal passion project into something much bigger, including work to eliminate child hunger in one of the most underserved communities in America, East Cleveland. But before we learn more about Ken's story, I have a question for you. Do you ever feel like something's just off? Like life is full, but not fulfilling the way it used to be? Well, this is one of the reasons that I started the Boomer Banter membership. After years of work in our careers, maybe caregiving, we find ourselves kind of missing that sense of connection, those regular chats, that you had maybe in the office or in the school, shared laughs, and friendships with people that truly get you. So with the Boomer Banter membership, you would join a warm, welcoming space for adults 55 plus who crave real connections and real conversations, meaningful friendships, and something to genuinely look forward to. We meet twice a month for live, engaging conversations. And they're not formal, we have topics and we talk about things. We meet with a guest once a month. And I have an offer for you to try this out totally free, no obligations. Just come join us, see what you think. No pressure, just connection. If you're interested in checking it out, email me at wendy@heyboomer.biz and I will get you set up. So come and join us. We'd love to have you. So as I said in the beginning, Ken Counihan spent years in IT. But after a health scare in 2022, he began to reevaluate his purpose, which led to creating the podcast Eat Better Food Today for health and longevity. The podcast interviews chefs, doctors, farmers, and other professionals focused on healthy choices around food, exercise, sleep, community, and purpose. The podcast mission has remained the same, but with a stronger focus on helping food insecure neighborhoods, leading to the creation of a food as medicine center in America's poorest suburb. So let's welcome Ken Counihan to Boomer Banter. Hey, Ken.
Hey, Wendy.
Glad you could join us today. I think
Glad to be here.
Yep, you have a fascinating story to share with us, so I'd like to just jump right in. And I always love a good second act story. So tell us a bit about what took you from your career in IT to starting a podcast about nutrition and shifting your whole focus in life.
Yeah, so as you mentioned at kind of the beginning, I had a health scare back in 2022. And when you have a situation like that, I'll just call it a near-death experience, you kind of reevaluate a lot of things you're doing in your life. So part of that was I got exposed to Apple. Basically, my Apple Watch played a big role in getting me to the hospital and getting me healthy.
Wow.
So I actually reached out to Apple, Tim Cook directly. He responded like within an hour.
No way.
Yes, within an hour.
My gosh.
And
By the way, he's the CEO of Apple, for those of you who may not know. Okay.
And he set me up for some local interviews to basically tell my story, as far as, how the Apple Watch helped to, save my life, basically. My family was involved in that too. It's not just a technology thing, but just wanted to point that out. But anyways, that kind of got me. So I started doing interviews, and then we have these family dinners every week or every other week, and just started talking about kind of, what else could I be doing besides what I've been doing for 30 years. And the podcast came up as a good topic because I love food. And, I mean, who doesn't love food? But I love really good food. And being in sales for 30 years, you get exposed to a lot of good meals. So that kind of led to the podcast and doing, kind of what you're doing, and then doing, some other things on the side. I've been on a couple of local TV shows and such, kind of explaining what's going on. But so that kind of all that led to when I started doing these interviews and started doing the podcast. Like you said, the mission has kind of remained the same, but the focus has kind of gotten more onto this food insecure because I love good food. I love good restaurants. I interview chefs that make fantastic foods, but not everybody can afford to go to those restaurants. Not everybody has access to those restaurants. Not everybody has access. When I go to farmers markets, they're not in every neighborhood, and they're not in the poorest neighborhoods. Grocery stores are not in the poorest neighborhoods. So it just that kind of coupled with we got a new pastor at our church, and he wanted to do something with this campus we have in East Cleveland. And it's like we got to do something here. And so that's kind of led to what I'm continuing the podcast, but really heavily focused on this East Cleveland center.
So were you aware of the problem in these poorer neighborhoods, not having grocery stores, not having access to fresh food before you started this?
I had done a little bit of research. So I knew East Cleveland was the poorest neighborhood in America. I knew that 50% of the kids there didn't know where their next meal was coming from, which is the food insecurity. Be honest, I didn't know much more than that until I started having some of these conversations.
Hmm. Okay, so you started the podcast. Had you ever listened to podcasts? Did you know much about podcasts before you did this?
Well, I listened to a lot of podcasts, but I quite honestly didn't know what I was getting into from, I don't know how you were when you started, but I've learned a lot. I've taken a few courses. I hooked up with a studio here in Cleveland. They kind of got me started. I still have a company that produces my podcasts, and I've started doing it because I'm really interested in this topic. And I kind of you were talking about your, twice a month thing, being in corporate America, having a team. I mean, I had a team of people. We talked every Monday,
That's
and then we
right.
talked every day during the week. So I love being in front of people. I love being in front of customers. So most recently, I've started to go and do my interviews in person. So I, went out to LA. I did 3 interviews out there. The interview that I'm going to release tomorrow, I actually went down to Southern Ohio at Snowville Creamery. I met the CEO down there, and we talked in her, got a tour, met some cows, had some good product, and they've got an interesting story too. They're very focused on kind of social justice and doing good things in the neighborhood and the community. It's kind of an interesting. So I don't know if it's because I'm the host and talking about this topic, but a lot of my guests, maybe it's the guests I pick, I don't know, but they just all seem to be very focused on trying to help people. So even if it's a chef, um, um, we had 4 people nominated for James Beard's Awards this year, and one of them did get one, thank God. And, Cleveland always seems to be overlooked for that. So,
Hmm.
but they're doing good things in the community. I mean, they're doing things for the local hospital here, cancer center. They're doing things for incarcerated individuals to give them kind of a second chance. I mean, and the interview that I just did in Southern Ohio, there, if you want to show up at Snowville Creamery and grab a 16-ounce thing of chocolate milk or yogurt or whatever, and it's in the fridge, you can take it and take it home and enjoy it. I mean, it's just there for the
Really, just
community.
do
So
it.
there.
Wow.
So
So you definitely are attracted to and attracting people that are interested in social justice and around the food distribution too.
yeah,
And
yeah,
and your podcast does have a really powerful message that goes along with that, and that is about food is not just for eating, but it's also about healing.
Correct.
So, what are some of the biggest insights you've learned about food as medicine? Because I never think about food as medicine.
Yeah, well, I mean, all of us eat. And as I've interviewed some of these doctors and been to a couple of conferences last year, and what you eat basically influences your body, your DNA. And if you start looking at some of the statistics out there and some of the doctors that I've interviewed, I mean, overset, depending on what you read, anywhere from 70 to 90% of the current American diet is ultra processed foods. And what does that mean? It means it comes in some kind of package, and it means it typically has more than 6 ingredients. And it also means you probably can't read 90% of the ingredients that are on the
Or at least
package.
pronounce them right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
some scientist has made this food to taste good. And I mean, it's the same thing with, drive-throughs. For the most part, there are not, healthy food options there. But in these neighborhoods, that's all they have. They have gas stations that serve packaged products, and then they have drive-throughs. So why does that matter? It matters because from a food standpoint, what you're putting in your body affects your mood, affects how you can sleep, affects, how healthy you are. And one of the doctors I talked to, he mentioned the fact that people are actually several of them, people are getting older in America. So they're, the average age is say 94 in the US right now, but people aren't living healthier to 94. People are in wheelchairs, or in the hospital, they're in nursing homes. So you may be living longer, but you're not living healthier. Like health span is kind of what the doctors talk about. So what you're putting in your body matters. And so what a lot of studies have shown is because more people are eating these ultra processed foods, not cooking at home, and not eating healthy, that's contributing to chronic disease. And so our healthcare spending in the U.S. is up. I know the current administration, whether you like them or not, does have a gentleman there that's trying to do some things. We'll see if he's successful given what's going on in DC right now, but he's at least trying. And so basically you can see a direct correlation to the amount of ultra processed foods. There are a bunch of studies out there through Tufts and Cleveland Clinic and others talking about the higher consumption of ultra processed foods are directly related to the increase in chronic disease. So heart disease, diabetes, high blood pressure, et cetera. So if you're not eating good foods, you're telling your body bad things, and you get cancers. So there's a lot of doctors now focused on kind of functional medicine is what I call it. Other people call it other things, but basically kind of looking holistically at what you're doing from a food, exercise, sleep
Yeah,
standpoint.
and so it gets so confusing though, right? Some people are like, well, you got to be sugar free. Some people are, well, you got to be all plant based. Some people are, oh, go back to the way the cavemen ate. I forget what they call that diet, right? But there's all these different things. Like, how
Sure.
do you figure out what is healthy food for you?
I would say just get back to basics. I mean, what I talk about on my show a lot is if you are buying something, try to buy something that's fresh, first of all. So, apples, oranges, lettuces. I mean, vegetables are very good for you. So everybody, regardless if you're like to eat, animal products or not, you should be eating more vegetables. 2/3 of your diet should be vegetables, and then the other third can be, you know, um, other products, meat products or other products. So you don't have to be a vegetarian, but everybody should be eating more vegetables. So, and then if you're buying something in a store, if you can't understand the ingredients, don't buy it. I mean, it's just common sense. I mean, trying to think of a good analogy, but it'll come to me. So basically, if you don't understand the ingredients and you can't make it at home, you shouldn't be buying it in a package. And then finally, it should have less than 6 ingredients on the package, and 6 ingredients that you can understand. So that's just kind of a rule of thumb. And then, um, try to buy things that are in season. On my podcast and on my website, I've kind of got a link. You can go in and pull down whatever state you're living in, pull down the month, and it'll say, here's what's fresh in your neighborhood, your part of the country. So that way it's fresh. Because that's kind of the other thing I've learned is when I was in LA doing these interviews, when we went to a grocery store, bought some blueberries, put in our yogurt that we like to do, and the blueberries came from Chile. And you know
Mhm.
what? They didn't taste like anything because they were picked before they were ripe. They traveled at least whatever that is, 3,000 or more miles, and so it may have looked like a blueberry, but it did not taste like a blueberry. So what
Hmm.
does that mean? Other than if it doesn't taste good when you're eating it, that should be a sign too. So that blueberry lost about 40 to 60% of its nutrients traveling all that way too. So you're not getting
Hmm.
as much nutrient density if you're not, um, eating things that are more local. So other organizations, farmers, I'm actually going to interview um, uh, American Farmland Trust on Thursday, and it'll get published next month. But regardless, they're kind of focused on helping farmers because that's local farmers. You want to try to buy things on a local basis. So that's
Yeah.
a long
Yeah.
answer to your question, but less than 6 ingredients. If you don't understand it, don't buy it, and try to buy local. I guess that would be my short answer.
So, did you have an interest in food, nutrition, food as medicine, eating healthy before you started this, before your health scare?
Yeah, so my wife and I, yeah, actually hooked up with the Cleveland. We went on to our favorite vacation spot on Cape Cod and took a bunch of pictures. Hung it up on the. I kind of got a present for my wife, put it up on the wall. And we're looking at the picture like, we don't look very good. This was back in 2014. It's like we got to do something about this. So Dr. Hyman was starting a functional medicine practice at the Cleveland Clinic. So we
Huh.
signed up for that, and basically I kind of learned some of what we're discussing here today. And yeah, so we've been eating healthy, exercising, getting the right sleep. They talk about meditation. They talk about a lot of kind of a holistic approach to your health. So quite honestly, if I had not been doing that for the last 8 years before my incident, I probably would not. We wouldn't be having this conversation. So if I
Oh,
were,
really? You think that the fact that you had kind of changed your eating habits already really
yeah,
helped you?
yes, and the fact that I was in good shape and a runner, and so yeah.
Hmm.
So Apple Watch alerted me, but if I wasn't healthy, I would not be here.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So,
Yeah. Okay. So I do want to focus a little bit more on the work that you're doing in East Cleveland.
sure.
Um, So I think you kind of touched on the work that your pastor and how it all came about, but tell me a little bit more about this and then the vision for this community wellness center.
Yeah. So we've basically been working. It's a Catholic parish. It really doesn't matter because we're working with all of the faith-based organizations in East Cleveland at this point, and so we're trying to bring. There is no grocery store in East Cleveland. There's a Dollar General across the street, which I did a Thanksgiving episode on, which had a had trouble looking at the ingredients that were healthy there, and recommending those. There were a few, but so what we're trying to do is create this center. So initially, so a couple of things have happened. So we've got basically the church and 5 buildings on this campus. Of those 5 buildings, 4 are in terrible condition. So we're in the process, and we've gotten funded to remove 2 of them from the county. They're actually going to fund that, and we're going to have the other 2 hopefully down next year. So we're going to that. In the meantime, we've fixed up the old rectory building and turn that into an education center. So we're doing healthy lunch sessions. We actually started last week. We have one on this Wednesday. So basically every Wednesday, so to kind of get something kickstarted in the neighborhood. In the Cleveland Clinic, which is next door to us, they have a center there, Stephanie Tubbs Jones Center. They do something teaching class like on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So that's kind of why we picked Wednesdays.
In the
And
same place or?
they're a block from us. Yeah.
Okay.
So we're working closely with them. They've got a community relations group and other things we're trying to make happen there. But so we're going to start with the healthy eating classes, and then so we have chefs coming in to do that. We have a doctor coming in, a diabetes doctor coming in at the end of the month. We're going to have a legal aid organization come in. It'll be part of the Healthy Lunch series. We're going to do like a men's health. I'm still working and getting a financial piece. We're trying to, provide services to the neighborhood that we believe are needed. And in conjunction with that, we're going to do a survey to kind of also get, more direct input from residents there, because what the center we want to build is going to be a, 12,000, 2-story building. We want to make sure through this education center, learn enough so we know what to put in that new building that we're going to build here in the next couple of years. So that's kind of
It's an amazing initiative that you're taking on, from being an IT professional to almost dying to starting a podcast, and now you're trying to solve hunger in this neighborhood. It's incredible, Ken.
well,
Now I know when we talked the other day, you had your first one last week and you were like, nobody showed up.
yeah, with
So that was a little
yeah.
discouraging. So what's the plan for this week?
I've actually done a lot of work this past week. I've reached out to more local organizations, the ones we'd already been talking to. I said, "Hey, you said you're going to advertise this, please,
Right.
help some more." And they've agreed to do that. We got Catholic Charities is going to operate the new center when it's built. And so they have a woman that's very well connected in East Cleveland. She got us into a newsletter. She got us into the high school Facebook page. She's distributed it to her church. And so we got it into other churches. On the process of getting a sign made, that won't be until the third session, but that's okay. So, and then other people have distributed flyers in the neighborhood. So
Everybody
um,
who's listening, whether you're in Cleveland or not, send out good vibes that people
yes.
get the message and show up. I'm curious how you built this coalition of, Cleveland Clinic and chefs and the faith-based communities. I mean, that's a pretty significant win too.
Yeah, it's because I don't know. Maybe everybody in Cleveland has a big heart. I don't know. We could maybe say that, but it all came from my podcast, to be honest. I mean, just interviewing people, having these discussions, talking about food, talking about health, and then always mention we're trying to do this work in East Cleveland, and I would say 90% of my guests have said, "I want to help somehow."
Wow.
So that's kind of how we built. We have an advisory committee with all these organizations. We had 18 people show up for the advisory meeting back in January, and we'll have another one next month. So, I mean, there's a lot of interest in helping. Um, I'm just hoping to get enough momentum so this is not
Mm.
a Ken activity. This is a community activity going forward.
Yeah, yeah, and we talked about that too. Like, sometimes these volunteer organizations, you end up with 1 or 2 people doing the work, but hopefully you find those 1 or 2 other people that will
Right,
hang in
right.
there with you. That would be great. I need to take a quick break to talk about our sponsor, Greenwood Capital. So Greenwood Capital is our sponsor, and I want to thank my advisor, Melissa Bain, because her approach to my financial plan is very holistic. She looks at what I have available, what I hope to have for the future, and we make plans that make logical sense so that I can live to that 94-year-old age that you're talking about, Ken, but live with health too. Um, as an independent registered advisory firm, Greenwood Capital is a fiduciary. They must place your interests above their own. And I want to share that as a sponsor, Greenwood Capital has compensated my business for this testimonial. And for more information about how they can help you make a financial plan, go check them out at greenwoodcapital.com. I do appreciate what they do for me. So now that we are back with Ken, let's talk more about finding purpose in later life. So that's something that we talk about a lot on my show, and I'm I I'm just curious, did you ever imagine you'd be doing this kind of work at this stage in your life?
Uh, no, I knew I was going to help do some kind of service work, but not to this magnitude. Absolutely not. I mean, and again, it's all. I'm gonna keep tying it back to food. So, eat good food. We have these family meals. Like I said, every Sunday or every other. Kind of been every other Sunday lately. And when you get around a table and you're eating food with friends or family or whatever, you have very interesting conversations. Add a bottle of wine in or a beer or whatever your favorite beverage of choice is, and you have some pretty interesting conversations. So I mean, that helps kind of germinate what we're doing here. So that's things happen over a good meal. I mean, always has, always
Oh,
will.
yeah. Yeah, it's a
Maybe
great way of
doing more of it, less eating in cars, less eating on the run.
Oh,
You
I
know,
know, right? Don't stand up and eat. Sit down and enjoy your meal.
yeah.
Yeah. So I'm but this is like your retirement, but you're working probably harder than than you've ever worked.
I, unfortunately, yes, that is what has happened. So,
So what's the most
but
fulfilling thing that you're finding though about the work that you're
yeah, I
doing?
mean, it's much more. I mean, it's somewhat stressful, but it's actually more relaxing because I'm doing something that I want to do, not something that my boss or his boss or whatever wanted me to do. So it's very interesting to me, and I mean, there's a lot of good people in this neighborhood. I'll throw out one other fact that kind of just to kind of help with the conversation. So you mentioned the 94 that I mentioned. So in these urban areas like East Cleveland, the average life expectancy is 69 years old.
Mhm.
So just
It's a
that's
big
the
difference,
difference
right?
in
That's
the
a big difference.
environment, yeah, from one neighborhood to the next. So the
Yeah.
94 is in suburbia, not in some of these neighborhoods. So I mean, I am working harder. My wife reminds me of that quite frequently, but I mean, I'm having fun too because I'm meeting a lot of interesting people, and we're starting to do some good work. So,
Yeah. So you're working hard on the podcast and on this initiative
mhm.
to solve hunger in East Cleveland. Um, let's start with the podcast. What have you found challenging about the podcast?
The interviewing's easy. And fun, like we're doing here. But the on my side, because I don't do live, I tape it, and then especially when I go out and do it on the road, the
Mm,
interview that gets released tomorrow, I had multiple segments that I had to bring together, and it. I mean, it took me many hours yesterday to get that produced.
mm,
So I did not expect the amount of time. I having the conversation's good, but and great, but kind of the production piece and getting it published has been a challenge. And I'm actually going to meet with somebody. What's today? Monday, Tuesday, and somebody on Friday that might be able to help me there. I did have a company that was helping me, but they were just super expensive. I couldn't afford
yeah.
that. They do things for corporations, large companies here in town. It's like I can't afford you guys. So
Yeah. Yeah. It is. It's a lot more work than anybody ever
yeah.
imagines when they get into it. What about this initiative to, end the hunger or at least address the hunger and poor nutrition in East Cleveland? What's some of the challenges you're running into there?
Um, well, I mean, getting started for one, as evidenced by the lack of attendance to lunch last week. And then just trying to get a lot of people are interested, but I haven't, and a lot of people are saying we want to help, but the financial piece, the contractors we got were very generous. So they were that fixed up the rectory building. So we got about $85,000 in donations from the contractors,
That's
which was
great.
fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they were willing to help, but we're still early, so I'm hoping more people will step in and actually help do things financially and with their time. So I think that's just something that takes time. We only started this back, you know, fall of last year, so
It's
it
not
hasn't,
even a year old.
yeah, it's not even a year old yet. So
Yeah. What about the food? Is that being donated as well?
um, yes, last week I bought it. This week we're going to go. I've actually had an appointment. So Catholic Charities, who we're partnering with, we're going to go to the food bank tomorrow, pick out the ingredients, and also pick out enough so people can take food home and make what we're making tomorrow. So I've got that
Mm,
arranged for this week and the week after.
mm,
And the diabetes, uh, since that's being run by university hospitals, they're actually going to provide lunch, and then I'll start working on May.
mm.
So, but the food bank is interested in helping, and they're also in the same. Everybody's got any organization that had federal funding is getting looked at or funding reduced. So they're in that category. So they're kind of saying we can help now. I don't know what we're going to be able to do in the future. So.
Hmm. Have you made contacts in the neighborhood?
Yeah, I mean, we've the clinic center that's there. We've talked to East Cleveland Public Library. They do a lot of things there. They're within a block of us, and they do a lot of after-school activities, backpacks for kids. They've got computer labs. They've got areas downstairs for little children that they can do things after school. So we've talked to them. There's a Baptist church that's a couple blocks away. We've had a lot of good conversations with them, and are actually looking to do something together this summer, maybe a summer camp or something like that at our building.
Yeah. Oh, that would be a great idea.
Yeah.
So I noticed on your website you have all these yummy looking recipes.
I like food.
Yeah. Are these recipes that you serve at your Sunday dinner?
Sometimes, yeah. So I'm a little behind in the recipe category because it's taking up more time than I expected. But yeah, so these are all I end every episode with a recipe. So I ask my guests for a recipe. So the idea is so that people don't feel like they have to go through a drive-through to eat a quick healthy meal. So everybody is asked to bring a recipe that has a few ingredients, which to me is under six, um, can be made in under 30 minutes, under $25 for a family of four. So that's what every recipe. I'll say there are a couple exceptions. A couple of the chefs I've had get a little crazy, but for the most part, they all fit in that category.
And you've made each one of them. I mean, those look like professional pictures with
Yeah,
your.
I've made all of those. And
Do you have favorites?
huh, chicken cacciatore. When I interviewed a winery out in California, that was delicious. Um, and another one was by a doctor, Dr. Batul Hatipoglu. She's the diabetes doctor that's going to do something in a couple of weeks here. She had a Turkish dish that was amazing. Actually, it's one of the videos on my website too. I actually made that on TV for one of the shows there. So that
Huh,
was really good.
that's awesome.
And she even after she sent me an email after, I don't know if she's going to listen to this or not, but she said she sent the interview, the making of her recipe to her mom back in Turkey. So that was pretty cool.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. Well, this has been an incredibly inspiring conversation, Ken. And before I let you go, I do want you to tell people how they can find you and find your website.
Sure. So eatbetterfoodtoday.com is the website.
Eatbetterfoodtoday.com. Yes, and I'll put that in the show notes.
Yeah, so basically you can go there. I mean, I'm on Apple, I'm on Spotify, I'm on YouTube, but if you go to the website, it has links to all of that stuff. It's probably the easiest thing. And then you can get into either Apple or Spotify or, whatever your podcast choice is. And then the same for the videos. So
Yeah. And it
also
also has links to your recipes and
right
your
to the rest.
blogs.
Yeah, has blogs, has books that the guests have recommended,
Oh, that's
has
right.
a
Books.
couple of articles that research articles some of the doctors have referenced. So the food insecurity, and when I was talking about the ultra processed foods, I know those are out there from a research standpoint.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a lot of information on your website. So I appreciate that. Yeah. And people can contact you through that website too if they want to.
They can email me, or they can if they separately, if they want to email me just on the side, they can do Ken at today ebftoday.com. I just shortened the eat better food to 3 letters and then today.com. So try to make it a little
So
bit easier to send an email to.
I know, right? That would be a long one to type. So Ken at ebftoday.com. Yes, and I would highly recommend that you listen to some of his conversations and check out his website. It really is fun. And share this. I mean, if you've been inspired, share it with your friends because you never know who needs to hear this, right? And if you share it with them, they will thank you. And in that light, I have something to share with you. And that is one of my friends who has a podcast called Reinvention Rebels. And her name is Wendy Battles, another Wendy. And she shares inspiring stories to ignite your courage, to strengthen your self-permission muscle, and to remind you that you are limitless. Because midlife, and her show is mainly for the midlife people, midlife isn't about slowing down. It's about showing up boldly and living life on your terms. And you can find Reinvention Rebels wherever you find your podcasts, or you can go to her website at reinventionrebels.com. Fun name, right? Also, let me remind you to accept my invitation to the Boomer Banter membership. This, as I said, is a warm, welcoming space for adults 50 plus who crave real conversations, meaningful friendships, and something to genuinely look forward to. And as a special announcement, Ken will be our guest on the next Tuesday, the next Boomer membership group. So you can email me at wendy@heyboomer.biz, and I will get you in to try it out. No charge, no expectations that you continue to come back. But if you like it, we'd love to have you back. So come ask Ken all the questions about the food and about East Cleveland and about starting this initiative and all of that. You email me at wendy@heyboomer.biz. And I also want to make sure that you support our sponsor. You know, we depend on our sponsors to help support the show. So this is greenwoodcapital.com. Please go check out their website. They have all kinds of important information there that can be very helpful to you as you're planning for the future. So let me tell you about our next week's show. And our guest is going to be Stephen Perrine. He is the executive editor for AARP Magazine and the AARP Bulletin. Steve oversees health and wellness coverage for the organization, and we're going to be talking about the why and the how behind staying mobile for as long as possible. Mobile, lifting and bending and all that good stuff. So you're going to want to join in for that so that you too can get up and sit down easily. And as I said, if today's episode struck a chord, please share it with a friend. We are all stronger together. So thank you for tuning in to Boomer Banter. Thank you so much, Ken, for what you shared today.
Thank you for having me.
It's been my pleasure. And thank you all for joining us. I will see you next week.